Welcome. This is Ralph Bivins with the Ralph Bivins Project, and we're here today to talk about a crazy trend. It's like nothing I've ever seen before in my career. It's just unreal. The housing market is doing things we haven't seen before in a long time, or ever, really. And we're here today with Shad Bogany, who's with Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Greene. He's also recently named 2020 Texas Realtor of the Year by the Texas Realtors Association. He's been chairman of the board of the Houston Association of Realtors, and he is a longtime voice in the community. He's has a show called The Real Estate Corner, which comes on at 1360 KWWJ, and he's also makes appearances regularly with Ralph Coop on KCOA and everywhere else. So, Shad, I've been honored to be on your show a bunch of times, man. So it's payback time. You tell me. Here's the question: what's the state of affairs in the real estate market right now?
I think you started the program, and thank you, Ralph, for this opportunity. I think you started a program with, I've never seen anything like this, and I've been doing real estate almost 40 years now, and I would agree with you. We have never seen anything like this. And 2020 was a record year, and who would have thought it with the pandemic, how that people would have been buying, because for a couple of months, nothing happened at all. And then all of a sudden, we finished with a 2020 year that was a record setting year where it's continued. It hasn't slowed down at all. And the real key to it all, we have a perfect storm going on right now. We've got low interest rates, we've got low inventory. So that's boosting prices because we don't have any inventory, and it's strictly supply and demand. I can't tell you how many buyers or sellers have asked me, are we on a housing bubble? And I told them all, it's not a housing bubble. It's basically, it's economics. Supply and demand is what we're seeing. And I also believe, Ralph, the builders have something to do with this too. They have not caught up and producing the product. So what's happening is that those buyers that normally might have bought new homes have already started buying resale homes. So that's put a lot of pressure on the resale market. And as I told somebody the other day, the builders are almost selling what we call PSLs. You know what those are? A right to buy a new home. And so when we take buyers out there to the marketplace to look at new homes, the builder said, well, let me put you on a list. You can pick out a lot, but I don't know what the price of the house is going to be. You tell me which house you want, but I don't know what the price is going to be. But you're at least in line to get it, whatever it may be. And I've never ever seen anything like that. And so what's happening? Buyers don't like uncertainty. What are they doing? They're going to look for resale homes, and that's not counting. You lost a lot of new homes in the Harvey flood that investors bought that turned around, instead of putting them back on the market and they rehabbed them, but they rented them out at that point. And some of them are coming on the market now, but then you got buyers saying, oh, that house flooded. I don't want to look at that house. It was only first time. So it's been a perfect storm of everything coming together at once that has created the frenzy in the real estate market here in Houston.
And that inventory is super tight. I think the latest number I saw from Houston area, like 1.2 month supply, meaning that
that's about 6 weeks. That's about 6 weeks of inventory. But I'm going to say the cup is half full, because in Austin, it may be 1 week of inventory. In Dallas, it may be 2 weeks. So I'm going to say we're doing better than some of the other areas, big cities here in the state. But it is, and the thing is, I was up in Tyler last week speaking, and the Greater Tyler Association, and they are having the same problem that we have here, even in Tyler. You call the guys out in El Paso, they're having the same issue. Panhandle, down in the valley. So this is a statewide phenomenon. And then when you talk to people in other states, they're having the same issue. So it's just not enough houses to satisfy the demand.
And the prices are going up really fast. And the builders are saying, hey, lumber prices have gone up 300% over the last year. How can they build anything affordable when it's going up like that?
Right.
That's why they're not selling directly, is they put it on wait because they don't know what the price should be, and
Right.
their materials are going up so fast.
Well, I had a builder the other day, won't name the name, but the property didn't appraise for what the buyer was paying for. And they sent out actually two appraisers out there. The buyer was using the builder mortgage company and it still didn't appraise. So the builder sent out a third appraisal, but the builder told the buyer, if it does not appraise, we expect you still to buy this house. And if not, we'll put it back on the market and work with a new buyer. It's just that type of market right now. And then I had another builder talk about, Ralph, that if the sales counselors sell a house and it doesn't go through, they don't give that house back to that sales counselor. They give it somebody else in the sales office, because you should have made sure that buyer could buy that house. So, it's a lot of pressure out here right now. And no, I'm like you. I've never seen anything like it. And actually, as I talk to my fellow realtors, they all say, I wish it would go back the way it used to be. And even though everybody thinks we're selling a lot of houses, we're really not, Ralph, because the market is such stress that I listed one in Bel Air on Saturday. It was gone to the first buyer at above list price immediately once I listed it. And I'm like, it's a townhouse. I'm thinking, okay, I'll probably have it gone in 30 days. It was gone in a couple of hours.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've seen these reports. I think Redfin put out a report saying that 50% of the houses are getting multiple offers.
Yeah.
Buyers, there's just not enough inventory anywhere, really.
Well, I'm going to give you people that are buyers they're listening to us on your podcast, is that if the house has been on the market over 30 days, you probably got a lot more opportunities there to purchase that home or discount it if it's been on the market more than 30 days. Now, the question is, if it's on the market more than 30 days, it has two issues. It's either way overpriced or it's a condition issue. So if it's one of those, then it's going to be on the market much longer, or there are issues getting in to see it. So there's something going on, and those may be the ones that you might get your better deals with if it's been on the market more than 30 days. And that would be my suggestion for buyers.
That sounds like wise advice.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens with all this high demand and low supply situation, of course, basic economics, the price goes up. So I was looking, in Houston, the average price in April was up 20% over April of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And nationally, they just put out a national report yesterday, up 13% April versus April, according to Case Showing. All these prices going up so fast. I'm just wondering, what does that mean to the working class buyer? What do they do? Prices going up, you can afford this.
Well, the person that's being hurt in this market right now is the first-time home buyer. The working class, because they're paying rents for houses that they could own for the less money. The problem is that they're suffering because there's no houses in that marketplace. The majority of the houses that are being sold is that 250 to 500. That's almost 60 to 70% of the market. And so those buyers, they are wanting to buy a house, but they're still asking for $1,400 payments, $1,500 pay. They're just not there anymore. if you look at the new homes where a lot of these builders are building an entry level market, all of them are starting at 240, 250. And if you've got a, Texas doesn't have the lowest property taxes. So if you're out in one of these new subdivisions where the tax rate is anywhere between 3.5 and 3.8, that balloons the note up. Now you take a saves money on insurance on a new home, but we're seeing 1,200 square feet at 240 now, Ralph.
Yeah.
240. So that, and so economically wise, that is extremely hard for the first time home buyer, family of four, wife's making 40, the husband's making 40. It's hard, but they can pay that rent, but they're not giving that opportunity there. And we're beginning to see some builders start building rental homes. And I don't know if you saw the report, but I read the report the other day that a couple of these builders are making more money per house selling the rental homes in lots to investors, and the return is greater there than if they individually sold the house to me or you. And that concerns me, because when you own the stock exchange, is all about turning a profit. It's also showing your investors that you're making money. So if that gets into they start building more rental homes than resale homes, then new homes, that's going to change the marketplace. That's to change the dynamics.
Yeah, that does seem like it puts a lot of pressure on the market when the builders are devoting their attention to building single family homes and they just rent it out.
Right.
How are people going to, what happens to those homes in the long term? And one of my guests recently, Alex Kamkar, said, hey, that denying people the access to fulfill the American dream and buy a home, because these homes are going into rental. And there should be something in these single family rentals that allows people to convert to a home buy at some point. And that doesn't happen. Their rentals just like an apartment, and there's a lot of concern about that. The fairness of that, I think, is what he was saying.
Well, and I would agree. When you have a neighborhood that people are purchasing homes in, the neighborhood is stable, the schools are stable, kids do better in school, the whole neighborhood around that neighborhood becomes stable because people have a stake in the community. When they're moving in and out, they may be here 2 years and they're gone to the next community. When I was a kid, Ralph, we moved about 8 times in a row. And every year we had a different Christmas somewhere else. And it does. And I realized then that the apartments got old. My mother found the next new apartment complex, and that's where she moved to. And so I think it does hurt the overall community, because these institutional investors are looking for long term, and so they don't plan to sell. So what happens to the schools in that area? What happens to because they're switching things out? So I think that could be a detriment to the housing industry and that dream of owning your first home. And I think, Ralph, we need to stop thinking about single family all the time. I think we need to start looking at condos, townhouses, tiny houses. I think we need to change the concept, because people are willing to pay money for smaller spaces. Because if you go downtown, you get a 400 square foot condo and you paying $2,000 a month. So I think people are beginning to realize, I think in Houston, because we've always had land, everything's about the space. But I think we're going to have to change our dynamics of what we think and start looking at co-oping homes. Just the changing the mindset that we're not used to in Houston, condos and townhouses. They've never done well here. But I think we're going to have to change that mindset.
It's probably changing. And I've noticed some of the new home builders have they're going back and doing what they call duets, which is a duplex. They're building brand new duplexes out in suburbia somewhere. And I think that's a step in making housing more attainable for people that want to buy.
Right. Well, and we've seen the city of Houston, they've got a new program, Community Land Trust. I don't know if you've had any of them on your show, but the Community Land Trust, I think the lady name is Miss Ashley Allen, I believe. We did a show with her, and the city is giving $100,000 and $150,000 for people to purchase a home at 80% of median income. And I think that is just huge. But see, the concept is you don't own the land, you just own the house. It's on a 100-year renewable lease. So that means you're at 200 years. So who cares? 200 years.
Not going to be around for the resale on that one.
Right. And they do allow them to resell it. They do put a cap on what they can earn on it, but they got to sell it to somebody in the same situation as them. So I think that may be, it's not normal for what we're used to, but it may be an answer, one of the answers to affordability here.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah. So the city, and they've closed 35 of them already in the test run.
No kidding. And what's the name of the program again?
It's called the Community Land Trust, CLT, and it's clt.org. And the city just funded it for $52 million to do another 300 plans there. So it's available out there already. They've done their test run. Now they've got about, she told me they had about 90 people in the pipeline.
Great.
And so
you buy the home, but you don't own the dirt underneath it.
Right. So your taxes stay low. Which helps it. They had Austin had it called the Guadalupe CLT. That was the first one in the state. But what she shared with me, San Antonio's doing one, Dallas is doing one. It's a new concept. So it's almost like a co-op that you might see out in New York or California or some of these high cost areas. But I think we're going to have to get out of the box and stop thinking that everybody has to have a single family home, backyard, front yard, because it's really about lifestyle and opportunities. I think growing wealth.
Yeah, and people need to be building up equity. That's the key to long-term wealth, I think, and family stability. All these things. It's got so many benefits to home ownership. I think it's wise to try to expand that farther and farther. More and more people own homes. That's a great thing.
Right.
What do you see now? Outlook for the market. We've got this really tight inventory. Prices are going up. Things are selling. As soon as you put it for sale, time of yard that's gone. What happens next? How long is this trend, this crazy trend we're in? How long does this continue?
My research says that it will go on through 2022. They expect it to slow down in 2022, but it's still, we've had such a record year. So if I have a year like 2017, that still was an outstanding year. I think the caveat of low inventory will stay a while unless the builders all of a sudden can start getting lumber, the cost goes down. And let me say this, I don't really expect lumber costs to come down. And I'm going to share this with you. When we had Harvey, roofs went through the roof, and they, no pun intended, but roofs have never come back down. They're still very expensive to put a roof on your property. So my feeling is that it's probably going to run through 2022. The things that could change it if builders are able to come up with a new product. I've heard some builders say cost of wood is the same as using steel construction. I've heard some builders, there's some new products out there that they may be looking at. You may see more fourplexes and duplexes, as you said earlier. But I think the key to it all, if prices are still high and then interest rates go up, then I think you're going to see a slowness of the market. The interest rates is helping us save grace on the price because the most important thing in the purchase is the low interest rate.
We've been 3% for over a year or something. It's still
right.
they've
Yeah,
gone bad, but not very much.
we
3%.
closed some people, Ralph, at 2.75, 2.5. So we've seen some low rates, and I think that's what's offsetting everything that's going on is just the low interest rates. And so I do think there's a little slight remark I'd like to make. Now, so you bought your house, it's at 3%. Rates go up to 5 or 6. Why would you sell your house and then go buy at 5 or 6? So I see a lot of people that are refinance, they may add on, they may remodel, but they're not necessarily going to put that house on the market. And if I'm at 3% and rents are high, I can make more money because I've got a low interest rate. So I don't even put it on the market at all. I keep it in inventory and be my first rental property. So that first time home buyer still not getting into the market. So that's something that nobody's really talking about, but I see that as being a huge concern that nobody wants to put their house on the market because they got a low interest rate. I'm not going to go sell my house and then take 5%. Why would I do that?
Yeah. And when you got a 3% loan, like race like grandpa used to have,
Right. Well, I don't think grandpa had a 3% rate.
They're the lowest they've ever been.
Yeah.
In our modern ages, they're nothing like this. But,
right.
So it's why would they ever let go?
Right. I agree.
That's probably been happening. That could be part of the inventory problem, I think, with in the post-COVID era. Got people that seniors that didn't really want to move and go through all that, and you've seen all these people buying the second houses. People that get work from home, and that's a factor. The builders want to have they're reshaping their footprint a little bit and making sure they have home offices and places where you could have an office and work from home without the dog barking or something.
Right.
So all these things we're going through a big period of change, and it's I'm not sure where we're going to come out, but I don't think the inventory crisis is going to disappear immediately.
No. I'm probably would say we're probably 2 to 3 years away, because even if they started new subdivisions, it takes 2 years to just get land developed and everything put in place. We are seeing some buyers come in the market. They're living in a certain area of the country, and they always wanted to be in Houston or in Texas, and they're moving because now they work from home. The job said, hey, you don't have to be there. You can work from anywhere you want to be. The house I'm selling in Bel Air, his wife lives in Arizona. So now he's going to live in Arizona because his job told him you can work there as though you're here. So we're seeing a lot of that. I've got somebody moving from New Orleans to Houston. And I think that we're going to continue to see the population growth here in the state of Texas simply because of our business environment and the affordability. And once again, the cup is half full. We're all complaining about the prices. I remember selling new homes in Sunnyside with a builder for $79,000, Ralph. And now that same new home is $300,000. Can you believe in Sunnyside they're selling homes for $300,000? So, the whole market, the whole dynamics is changing. And there are some things I think the government can do to help us in this process. FHA has a rule that if you fix a house up, the investor has to hold on to it for 90 days before they can do it on an FHA loan. I'd like to see some loosening up of that. And I can give you some rules they can put in place to protect FHA. But I think also making sure that we go with smaller products and to make things affordable. And you might see some apartment conversions, Ralph, where they built them for apartments, high end, and now they're converting them to condos. I've heard and read that some commercial buildings, because if everybody's working from home and you got this commercial building downtown, maybe turning those into rentals, I mean, selling spots where people can actually buy, co-oping and things of that nature. So I agree with you. The whole dynamics is finna change.
Yeah, that is a thought. We have the office market, which I know you're going to talk about on your TV show real soon. But the vacancy rate is really high. We've
Mm-hmm.
got, and when are all these office buildings going to be able to be filled? So why not figure out a way to convert them to single family? I mean, you could convert them to rental, I suppose, but it would be a really good way to kind of like solidify downtown Houston to say,
Right.
with vacant buildings, let's make it better. Let's have people living there and liking the place. And, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing if they built an elementary school in downtown Houston?
Right. Right.
That we never imagined that could occur, but it could happen again.
Well, and if you think about it, and just think in this process that over they've done everything to build downtown up for the office buildings and office workers. But if nobody's downtown, you got all this infrastructure here now. So what do? Turn it into a residential community where you can and repurpose it, and then you can keep the businesses downtown up. So in the tunnels, turn that into a real mall. It's stuff that we could do to change things up, and but it's called thinking out of the box is going to be the key. But think about all the infrastructure that's been put in for office building for people to work downtown and live downtown. But if offices are not there because people have moved home, you got to do something with that space.
Right. You got good rail, good metro going in there. And it's been really tough on the downtown, restaurants that
Right.
they would, they get a good percentage of their weekly revenue from people that work in the office buildings. Those guys have got a tough time for the last year. And I was just thinking this too. I don't know if we didn't prepare for this question, but I know you're plugged in Washington at NAR, and you know all of what's going on, a lot about what's going on up there, and the lobbyist scene. But part of the lumber thing that we're talking about that seems to be preventing realtors from delivering affordable housing or attainable housing
Mm.
has been lumber costs have gone up 300%, something that's huge. And I recall that there has been a few years ago, there was a tariff put into place on Canadian lumber and it's still there. It's still on the books, and it's still making lumber that comes from Canada more expensive. Uh, is anybody talking about wiping out that tariff and trying to promote more affordable housing in that way?
I have not heard anything about that, but you just put an idea in my head, and I will be talking to my congressman and asking him about it. I will be talking to NAR about it because that may be something we need to look at. Um, uh, and what they told us, the lumber all went to building up plexiglass and all this for the COVID. I just can't believe that that's where it went. But that's an interesting comment, and that's something that maybe we need to explore. And I will definitely mention it to my local congressman, and I'm going to ask the realtors about it because I'll actually call Bob Hale and ask him about it and say, hey, Bob, he's much more connected than me. What about the tariffs on the Canadian lumber or
Yeah,
any import lumber coming in?
yeah, any import lumber, and if
Yeah.
there could be some way to, expand the capabilities of these places where they make lumber and the kilns and everything, around Lufkin and all the, that's where my grandfather worked and died, up there. But he was a lumber guy, cut down trees and make lumber and logs,
Mhm.
and lumber and stuff. But anyway, that would be that if we could figure out a way to enhance that lumber production, and it's a expensive process, give those lumber people some incentives to create building material faster. Sounds like a good thing to do.
Well, and I think it's a good idea. I'm surprised I hadn't heard anybody else think of it, but sometimes we're in the forest and we can't see it because of the trees, so we need somebody who's flying above it to see it. And that's why it's important to have all stakeholders, even including media, when we're sitting around talking about this stuff. Because I used to ask you all the time when you would come on my show, hey, Ralph, you out there with everybody, what are you hearing? Because you're talking to everybody. So I'm definitely going to move that ball down the field and throw it out there and see if I can get some feedback on it. And I'm gonna tell him from Ralph, I won't take your idea. I said this was a Ralph Bivins suggestion.
Maybe I'll anyway. Just let mortgages, 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Will that? How long is that going to last? This super affordable stuff. What's your thoughts on?
I think in 2022 it'll start moving up. We're beginning to see some inflation right now. I think the Fed is still buying security-backed mortgages right now. They're not telling us how much they're buying, but at some point, I think the rates ought to be a little bit higher. And I say that because usually when you have a bad economy or happens, they cut the rates to encourage. Where if they're already down to the bone, if the market goes to the right or to the, goes south, it's nowhere to go. What do you do at this point? So I think at some point they should raise them up. And I do believe probably by the end of next year, going into 2022, you're probably going to see them closer to 4.5. I wouldn't be surprised at all that. And you know what they used to do when the builders couldn't keep up with demand, they raised the prices to slow demand down so they could. So if interest rates is really fueling everything, you might see some of that coming in. And because really it's been held, it's been very low, Ralph, and it's been done arbitrarily. I mean, it's been done on purpose. We've not had a true market where the market is running everything. It's been artificially pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see some things happening there. And so we'll see where it goes. But you've heard my prediction. Next year, it will be over 4%. And the sad thing about all these millennials and these people that are coming up now, they've lived in the world of low interest rates. And you and I remember when they were 18%. So they don't really 6%. I'm not paying 6%. I'll just rent. But that was a normal rate at 6%.
Yeah, I've seen some stats that millennials have really come out in the last year. They want to buy. They're ready to buy the house now, and they're jumping in, and that's good. But it's you're right. They don't remember back in the 80s when 11% looked good,
Well, one of the houses, my second house I bought, it was 11%, Ralph, and I was turning cartwheels coming out. Man, we got 11%. So, and that's my concern, that when you refinance, you get all these rates at these low rates. What are people going to do with those houses? They're not going to put them back on the market. They're more than likely going to rent them out and keep them as rental property because their return on their dollars, because the rates are so low.
Yeah. Why give it up?
Why give it up?
Well, Shad, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
We're honored to have the Texas Realtor of the Year here with us today. So that's great, man. Congratulations on that honor.
Thank you very much.
We'll like to have you on again sometime, and we'll see how our predictions came out.
All right, and likewise, Ralph, I'd love to have you come on our show and talk a little bit. This process that you're using, I did it the other day with HAR, going over har.com, kind of explaining it to the consumer. And I thought, wow, and it really worked. So technology has really come a long way. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be on your show. And I just really appreciate that you hadn't forgot about me, your friend.
I never will, man. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.